The Stellar Harmony's hyperdrive hummed with renewed life. But it was a different song than before. Where once the quantum crystals had sung in perfect harmony, now they carried the rough harmony of human repairs. Metal patches gleamed against crystal beauty. Mechanical pumps worked alongside biological filters. The ship was no longer elegant, but it was alive. Hyperdrive is stable, Taiho reported from the engineering station. The human modifications are crude, but they're working. We should be able to make short jumps toward home. Captain Minho nodded from his command position. Through the view screen, he could see the indomitable spirit maintaining position alongside them. The human vessel looked even more primitive next to the restored beauty of the Stellar Harmony. But it had something that all the elegant alien technology lacked. The crew that had crossed the void to help strangers. Signal the human ship, Minho ordered. Tell Captain Kim that we're ready to begin our journey. The response came quickly. Understood, Stellar Harmony. We'll escort you as far as the Galactic Rim. Should take us about 8 months at our best speed. Hana listened to the exchange from her position at the science station. 8 months. The humans were offering to spend 8 months of their lives helping strangers get home. In civilized space, such dedication would require formal treaties and trade agreements. Here in the empty dark between galaxies, it required only the simple human willingness to help. Captain Kim, she said into the communication system, this is Dr. Hana. When we reach Republic space, you and your crew will be honored as heroes. Our government will want to reward you properly. There was a pause before the human captain replied. That's very kind, Doctor. But we're not heroes. We're just people who happen to be in the right place at the right time. Nevertheless, the Republic will want to arrange for technology transfers, cultural exchanges, perhaps permanent diplomatic relations. We appreciate the offer, Captain Kim interrupted gently. But we're explorers, not diplomats. There's still a lot of void left to see, and we'd like to see it before we head home. Taiho clicked in amazement. The humans were turning down the chance to gain access to technology that was thousands of years beyond their current level. Most species would have jumped at such an opportunity. Don't you want to improve your ships? He asked. Our technology could advance your civilization by centuries. Maybe, came the reply. But advancement isn't just about better technology. It's about better people, and you can't learn to be better people by taking shortcuts. The two ships began their long journey toward the Milky Way galaxy. The Stellar Harmony led the way, its patched hyperdrive making careful jumps through space-time. The indomitable spirit followed at sublight speeds, its crude fusion engines pushing it steadily through the cosmic dark. During the journey, the crews of both ships spent time together. The humans shared their simple food and bitter coffee, while the aliens offered the fruits of their advanced replicators. Cultural exchange happened naturally, without treaties or formal protocols. Dr. Yuna was endlessly fascinated by the biological technology of the aliens. She spent hours with Hana, learning about the living ships and organic computers that the Villani used. In return, she taught the alien scientist about human manufacturing methods and mechanical engineering principles. Your people build everything by hand, Hana observed as she watched Yunha repair a broken instrument with simple tools. Even your great ships are assembled piece by piece. That's right, Yuna replied. It takes longer, but it means we understand every part of what we build. When something breaks, we know how to fix it because we know how it was made. And when you can't fix it, we learn from the failure and build something better next time. That's how we grow. Engineer Kyung spent time with Taiho, comparing their different approaches to faster-than-light travel. The aliens' quantum crystal technology was elegant and efficient, while human hyperdrive systems were crude but reliable. Your crystals are beautiful, Kyung admitted. But what happens when you can't find replacement crystals? What do you do when you're far from a repair facility? We call for help and wait for rescue, Taiho replied. We fix it ourselves with whatever materials we have available. Sometimes the fix is ugly, but it gets us home. Captain Jiho and Captain Minho spent long hours discussing the philosophy of exploration. The human was curious about the formal expeditions that the Republic organized, while the alien was fascinated by the human tendency to explore independently. Your government doesn't control your exploration efforts? Minho asked. They support us, but they don't control us, Jiho explained. If we want to build a ship and head for the unknown, we're free to do it. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. But the choice is ours. That seems inefficient. Without central planning, you must waste resources on duplicate efforts. Maybe, But we also discover things that central planning would never think to look for. Individual explorers take risks that bureaucracies won't approve. As they traveled through the months of space between galaxies, Hana found herself thinking about what she had learned from the humans. They were primitive by galactic standards, but they possessed qualities that more advanced civilizations had lost somewhere along the way to sophistication. They were willing to risk themselves for strangers. They solved problems with whatever tools they had available. They explored not for profit or territorial expansion, but simply to satisfy their curiosity about the universe. Most importantly, they never gave up. When their elegant solutions failed, they tried crude solutions. When crude solutions failed, they tried even cruder solutions. They kept trying until something worked. On the final day of their journey together, Hana made her last log entry about the humans. Species designation, human. Technological classification, primitive but highly effective. Threat assessment, 0 to galactic civilization, but the galaxy itself may never be the same. Additional notes. These beings crossed intergalactic space to help complete strangers asking nothing in return. They repair quantum harmonics with percussion instruments and offer their food to starving aliens. They turn down technological advancement in favor of earning their progress through their own efforts. She paused, watching through the view screen as the lights of the galactic rim grew bright ahead of them. If this is what humanity is like in their technological infancy, I cannot imagine what they will become when they reach maturity. The galaxy will not tremble with fear when humans reach the stars in earnest. It will tremble with wonder. The Stellar Harmony's communications system crackled to life. Stellar Harmony, this is Republic Defense Station Omega. We're reading your ship's signature, but you were reported lost with all hands 3 months ago. Please identify yourself. Captain Minho smiled, his first genuine smile in months. Defense Station Omega, this is Captain Minho of the exploration vessel Stellar Harmony. We are very much alive, thanks to our friends on the human ship Indomitable Spirit. As the two vessels approached the edge of civilized space, Hana looked back toward the dark void between galaxies. Somewhere out there, the humans would continue their journey, carrying coffee and kindness to whatever wonders awaited in the depths of space. The thought of their small blue world, growing brighter in the galactic night as humanity took its first steps toward the stars, filled her with hope for the future. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place. Behind them, the Indomitable Spirit began to turn away from the galactic rim, heading back into the cosmic dark. The humans had delivered their charges safely home, and now they were ready to continue their exploration of the unknown. Captain Jiho's final transmission was simple. Safe travels, friends. Maybe we'll meet again among the stars. And in the vast dark spaces between the galaxies, that seemed like a promise worth believing in. Kyung Lee stood in front of the Stellar Harmony's hyperdrive and scratched her head. The drive chamber was the most beautiful piece of technology she had ever seen. Crystal formations grew from the walls like frozen music, their surfaces reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The main drive core was a work of art, with quantum alignment matrices that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. It was also completely broken. "Explain to me again what happened," she said to Taiho, who hovered nervously behind her. "The quantum crystals lost their harmonic resonance," the alien engineer replied. "When we entered this region of space, some kind of interference caused a feedback loop in the alignment matrices. The crystals are now locked in a state of quantum discord." Kyung nodded as if this made perfect sense. In truth, she understood maybe half of what Taiho was telling her. Human science was still catching up to the concepts that these advanced aliens used every day. But she did understand machines, and this was a machine that wasn't working. "Show me the diagnostic reading," she said. Taiho activated a series of holographic displays that showed the drive's status in beautiful, incomprehensible detail. Kyung studied the patterns for several minutes, noting how the energy flows had created loops and dead ends throughout the system. "Your crystals are perfectly aligned," she said finally. "Too perfectly aligned." "I don't understand." Kyung pulled a simple tool from her belt. It was a small hammer, designed for mechanical adjustments on human equipment. Taeho's compound eyes widened in horror when he saw it. "You cannot strike quantum-aligned harmonics," he protested. The mathematical precision required for proper resonance is measured in fractions of angstroms. One mistake could destroy the entire drive matrix. Sometimes, Kyung said with a grin, you just need to turn it off and turn it back on again. Before Taiho could stop her, she gave the main alignment crystal a gentle tap with her hammer. The sound rang through the drive chamber like a bell, and every crystal in the room pulsed with sudden light. The feedback loop that had trapped the quantum matrices for 3 months broke instantly. The crystals began to sing again, their harmonic resonance filling the chamber with music that made Kyung's teeth ache. Taiho stared in complete amazement as his beautiful, sophisticated drive system came back to life. The human had solved in 5 minutes a problem that he had spent 3 months trying to fix. How? He whispered. Percussion maintenance, Kyung replied cheerfully. When something gets stuck, you unstick it. Works on everything from quantum drives to stubborn doors. Meanwhile, Dr. Yuna was working with Hana to repair the ship's life support systems. The Villani biotechnology was elegant and efficient, using living organisms to filter air and recycle waste. It was also delicate and difficult to repair when it went wrong. Yuna's approach was typically human. Where the original systems used living filtration membranes, she welded in mechanical pumps. Where bioconduits had failed, she ran metal pipes. The repairs were crude and ugly, but they worked. This is artistic sacrilege, Hana observed as she watched the human weld a metal patch over a beautiful crystal air filter. But it works, Yunha replied. Your people build things to be perfect. We build things to be fixable. When something breaks, we patch it, weld it, tape it, or hit it until it works again. What if that doesn't work? Then we build a bigger ship and try again. Hana found herself laughing. The sound echoed strangely in the drive chamber, mixing with the renewed song of the quantum crystals. She couldn't remember the last time she had laughed. Captain Jiho found Captain Minho in his command quarters, staring out at the stars through the observation port. The aquatic alien's gills were working steadily in the improved atmosphere, and some color had returned to his blue-green skin. Your people are miracle workers, Minho said without turning around. They're engineers, Jiho replied. Engineers solve problems. That's what they do. In 3 months, we could not repair our own ship. Your engineer fixes it in 3 hours. Jiho sat down in a chair that had been designed for a much larger being. Different approaches to the same problems. You build elegant solutions that work perfectly under ideal conditions. We build crude solutions that work adequately under any conditions. Your species is young, Minho observed. A few centuries, Dr. Park said. Most civilizations take much longer to develop interstellar travel. We're impatient. When we see something we want, we reach for it. Sometimes we fall. Sometimes we fly. But we keep reaching. Captain Minho turned to look at the human. What do you want from the stars? Jiho thought for a moment. To know what's out there. To meet new people and see new worlds. To push beyond the boundaries of what we know and discover what we don't know yet. And when you have seen everything, when there are no more boundaries to push, then we'll find new boundaries to push, or we'll make new ones. The universe is a big place, Captain. I don't think we'll run out of wonders anytime soon. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the voices of their crews working together. Human pragmatism and alien sophistication combined to bring the stellar harmony back to life. Systems that had been dead for months began to function again. The ship that had been a tomb was becoming a home once more. Your repairs will not last forever, Minho warned. The quantum crystals need proper realignment in a full maintenance facility. Then we'll make sure you get to one, Jiho replied. Our ships can travel together. It'll take us about 8 months to reach the edge of your space, but we'll get you home. 8 months? Minho's gills fluttered with surprise. Your vessel would be welcomed in any port of the Republic. We could arrange for technology transfers, cultural exchanges, proper diplomatic relations. That's very kind, Jiho said. But we're explorers, not diplomats. There's still a lot of space out there we haven't seen yet. In the life support bay, Yuna put down her welding torch and stepped back to admire her work. The repairs were ugly by alien standards, but they would keep the crew alive until they reached proper facilities. Your species approaches problems very differently than ours, Hana observed. We're stubborn, Yuna admitted. When something doesn't work, we hit it with bigger hammers until it does. When that fails, we build a bigger ship and try again. And when bigger ships fail, we build even bigger ships. Or we find a different approach entirely. The important thing is never to give up. Hana studied the human's face, noting the determination that seemed to be built into her very bones. What drives you to explore? What makes you leave your homeworld and travel to the empty spaces between galaxies? Curiosity, Una replied simply. Wonder. The desire to meet people like you and learn about the universe through your eyes. We could stay home and be safe, but safety isn't the point. Growth is the point. Discovery is the point. As the repairs continued, the three aliens found themselves constantly amazed by their rescuers. The humans were crude and primitive by galactic standards, but they possessed something that most advanced civilizations had lost: the willingness to take risks for others, the determination to help simply because help was needed. The stellar harmony was coming back to life, patched with human ingenuity and powered by human kindness. It wasn't elegant, but it would carry them home. The human ship looked like nothing Hana had ever seen before. Where the stellar harmony was grown from living crystal and shaped by harmonic resonance, the indomitable spirit appeared to be hammered together from metal plates. Weld lines ran across its hull like scars. Mechanical docking arms extended toward their ship with jerky, precise movements. That's the ugliest ship I've ever seen, Captain Minho said, but there was wonder in his voice rather than criticism. It's beautiful, Hana whispered. It's the most beautiful thing in the universe. The docking process was rough by Villani standards. Instead of the gentle magnetic coupling that civilized ships used, the humans simply clamped metal arms onto the stellar harmony's hull and pulled the two vessels together. The impact shook both ships, but it worked. Docking complete, came the voice from the other ship. We're cycling the airlock now. Hope you folks are ready for some company. Tejo monitored the atmospheric readings as the airlocks connected. The humans were pumping fresh oxygen into the connecting tunnel. Clean, breathable air that smelled faintly of something organic and pleasant. They're sharing their atmosphere with us, he said in amazement, without even knowing if we can breathe it safely. The inner airlock door opened with a mechanical hiss and three figures stepped through. Hana's first thought was how small they were. The beings that had crossed intergalactic space to rescue them stood barely as tall as her shoulder. They were bipedal, with pale skin and tiny eyes, but their movements showed intelligence and purpose. The one in front stepped forward and removed a helmet from his head. Underneath was a face that looked surprisingly kind, with small eyes that crinkled at the corners. I'm Captain Jiho Kim of the exploration vessel Indomitable Spirit, he said. The translation device on his belt turned his words into sounds that Hana could understand. These are my colleagues, Dr. Yoonha Park and Chief Engineer Kyung Lee. We're very glad we found you. Hana tried to speak but found that her voice wouldn't work. 3 months of despair and slow death had not prepared her for the simple kindness in this alien's voice. Captain Minho floated forward in his mobility tank, his gills working steadily in the improved air. I am Captain Minho of the Villani Republic ship Stellar Harmony. This is Dr. Hana, our xenobiologist and engineer Tejo. We cannot express our gratitude. The human captain smiled, an expression that somehow translated across species barriers. No gratitude needed. We help because we can help. That's what people do. The female human, Dr. Yoonha, was staring at them with barely contained excitement. This is incredible, she said. 3 different species all working together on one ship. And you've traveled from the Andromeda Galaxy? The energy requirements alone must be... Yoonha, the captain said gently. Maybe we should focus on keeping our new friends alive first. Science can wait. The third human, Kyung, was already examining the wall panels with professional interest. Your life support systems are beautiful, she said to Tejo. I've never seen biotechnology integrated so elegantly, but I can see why they're failing. The organic components are starving without proper nutrients. Captain Jiho reached into a pack on his belt and pulled out a metal container. We brought coffee, he said. It's a stimulant beverage from our world. Helps with fatigue and improves morale. Our medical officer says it should be safe for most oxygen-breathing species. He poured the dark liquid into small cups and offered them around. Hana accepted hers with trembling hands. The coffee was bitter and strong, but it warmed her body and somehow made the world seem brighter. You traveled for 3 weeks to reach us, Tejo said, his translator clicking as it processed his words. You came all this way for strangers you had never met. Dr. Yoonha grinned. That's what humans do. We help, but why? Minho asked. What do you gain from rescuing us? The humans exchanged glances as if the question confused them. We gain the knowledge that you're alive, Captain Jiho said simply. We gain the satisfaction of doing what's right. We gain new friends in a very large and sometimes lonely universe. Hana felt tears running down her face again. In all her studies of galactic civilizations, she had never encountered a species that helped others simply because it was the right thing to do. Most races required treaties, trade agreements, or mutual benefit clauses before offering assistance. "Your ship," she said, looking around at the metal walls and mechanical systems. "It's so different from ours. How do you cross such vast distances with such simple technology?" Kyung laughed. "Simple technology has advantages. When something breaks, you fix it with tools and spare parts. You don't need rare crystals or harmonic alignment chambers. You just need somebody who knows which end of a wrench to use. Our hyperdrive failed 3 months ago," Taeho explained. "The quantum crystals lost their resonance. Without a full repair facility, we cannot restore their alignment." "Mind if I take a look?" Kyung asked. "I'm not familiar with crystal technology, but I understand the basic principles of faster-than-light travel." Taeho led the human engineer to the drive chamber, while Dr. Yunha began working with Hana to assess their life support needs. Captain Jiho stayed with Minho, and the two commanding officers found themselves sharing stories of exploration and discovery. "We've been beyond the galactic rim for 2 years," Jiho explained, "looking for new worlds, new life, new knowledge. Our ship isn't fast compared to what you're used to, but she's reliable. She gets us where we're going and she brings us home again." 2 years, Minho repeated. "Your people must worry about you." "They do. But they also understand why we do this. Someone has to push the boundaries. Someone has to go beyond the known and mapped regions. Otherwise, how do we grow? How do we learn?" As the humans worked to help them, Hana found herself studying their rescuers with scientific curiosity. They were clearly an intelligent species, but their technology seemed thousands of years behind galactic standards. Their ship was crude but functional, their tools simple but effective. Yet they had accomplished something that most advanced civilizations would consider impossible. They had crossed the void between galaxies in a ship made of welded metal plates. They had found a dying vessel in the vastness of space and come to help without asking for anything in return. "What are your people called?" she asked Dr. Yunha. "Humans," the alien replied. "We come from a small blue world in the outer spiral arm of what you probably call the Milky Way galaxy. We've only been spacefaring for a few centuries, but we're eager to explore." "A few centuries?" Hana's skin flickered with amazement. "Most species take thousands of years to develop interstellar travel. We're impatient," Yunha admitted with a grin. "When we see something we want to do, we tend to jump in with both feet. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But we keep trying." Through the ship's hull, Hana could hear the sound of Kyung working on their hyperdrive. The human engineer was humming as she worked, a sound that somehow made the dying ship feel more alive. For the first time in 3 months, Hana allowed herself to believe that they might actually survive. Taeho was checking the long-range sensors when he saw something impossible. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The compound lenses that covered half his face were designed to see across many different light spectrums, but even they could make mistakes when he was this tired and hungry. He blinked all 6 of his visual organs and looked again. The reading was still there, a small energy signature, moving toward them through the empty space between galaxies. It was faint but growing stronger. "That can't be right," he muttered to himself. He ran a full diagnostic on the sensor array. Half the sensors were offline and the other half were running on backup power, but they seemed to be working correctly. The signal was real. Taeho's heart began to beat faster. He called up the detailed readings and felt his excitement drain away like water through a broken dam. The energy signature made no sense. It was crude, primitive, using electromagnetic frequencies that most civilized species had stopped using thousands of years ago. Even worse, the approaching object was small. Much smaller than any ship capable of crossing the vast distances between galaxies. According to the sensors, it was made mostly of simple metals, iron and steel and other basic elements that barely qualified as construction materials. "Captain Minho, Hana," he called over the ship's communication system. "Please come to the bridge. I've found something strange." Within a few minutes, both of his crewmates had joined him. Captain Minho moved slowly, his gill slits working hard in the thin air. Hana looked pale and weak, but her eyes were alert. "What is it?" Minho asked. Taeho pointed to the display screen. "Something is coming toward us. A ship, I think. But look at these readings." Hana studied the sensor data, her blue skin flickering with the light patterns that showed deep confusion in her people. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "According to this, the approaching vessel is barely more advanced than chemical rockets. How could it cross intergalactic space? Maybe the sensors are broken," Minho suggested. "I ran a full diagnostic," Tejo replied. "They're working as well as they can with limited power." "The readings are accurate?" They stood in silence, staring at the display. The unknown ship was still hours away, but it was definitely approaching. Its course was directly toward the stellar harmony, as if it knew exactly where to find them. "Could it be a rescue ship from the Republic?" Hana asked hopefully. Tejo shook his head. "The technology profile is all wrong. This isn't Villani or Krillax or any other known species. The power systems look like controlled fusion, which is thousands of years out of date." "Then who could it be?" Minho asked. Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Static filled the bridge, followed by a harsh, guttural sound that none of them recognized. The translation computer struggled to make sense of the signal, producing fragments of meaning that flickered across the screen. Unknown vessel, detecting, distress. The words were crude and alien, but the meaning was becoming clear. Tejo adjusted the translation matrix, trying to filter out the static and background noise. Slowly, the message became understandable. "Unknown vessel, this is the exploration ship Indomitable Spirit. We're detecting your distress beacon. Hang tight, we're coming to help." The three aliens stared at each other in amazement. "Help? Someone was coming to help them? But we're not transmitting a distress beacon," Hana said. "Our communications array failed over a month ago." Tejo checked his instruments. She was right. They had no working transmitters. No way to send signals into space, yet somehow this strange ship had found them. "Maybe they're detecting our engine heat," he suggested. "Even with the hyperdrive offline, our reactor is still running. It would show up on thermal sensors." "From this distance?" Minho asked. "That would require incredibly sensitive equipment." They listened as more messages came through. The voice on the other end was patient and calm, speaking in the harsh language of whatever species was approaching them. The translation computer worked to decode each transmission. "We show you've lost main power and life support. We have spare oxygen and food if you need it. Our docking systems are pretty basic, but we should be able to link up." Hana felt her breathing organs flutter with an emotion she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. These strangers, whoever they were, seemed genuinely concerned about their welfare. In civilized space, such concern would require formal diplomatic contact, trade negotiations, and careful protocols. Yet these beings were simply offering help to unknown aliens in distress. "Who are they?" she whispered. Tejo was working frantically at his controls, trying to get more information about their rescuers. The sensor readings continued to baffle him. The approaching ship appeared to be built from welded metal plates. Its power systems were crude but functional. Its design suggested a species that built things to work rather than to be beautiful. "I'm getting more detailed scans now," he reported. "The ship is about 200 meters long. It looks like it was assembled rather than grown. The hull is made of processed metals, not living crystal or biocomposites." "Assembled?" Minho asked. "Like a machine?" "Exactly like a machine. And there are organic life signs aboard. At least a dozen individuals, possibly more." Another transmission came through, clearer this time. "Stellar Harmony. We see you on our screens now. Beautiful ship. We'll be alongside in about 6 hours. Don't worry, we've got everything you need." Hana realized she was crying. The blue tears that ran down her scaled cheeks were tears of relief and gratitude. After 3 months of slow dying in the empty dark, someone had found them. Someone cared enough to cross the void between galaxies to help strangers they had never met. "They called us by name," she said. "They know our ship's name." "Maybe they intercepted one of our old transmissions," Tejo suggested, "before the communications failed. Or maybe," Captain Minho said slowly, "they're exactly what they seem to be. People who help other people simply because it's the right thing to do." The idea seemed almost too wonderful to believe. In all the known galaxy, such altruism was rare. Most species helped others only when it benefited them directly. Yet these strangers were offering aid without asking for anything in return. Outside the observation window, a new star had appeared in the darkness. It was small and dim, but it was growing brighter. The Indomitable Spirit was coming to save them. For the first time in 3 months, the crew of the Stellar Harmony allowed themselves to hope. The silence was killing them slowly. Hana pressed her blue-scaled palm against the cold metal wall of the observation deck. 3 months ago, this wall had hummed with life. The ship's systems had sung their quiet songs of power and purpose. Now even the emergency lights flickered like dying stars. She stared out into the black space between galaxies. Far away, she could see the distant glow of other star systems. They looked beautiful and peaceful from here. They also looked impossible to reach. Another recycling unit just failed. Taiho's voice came through the ship's speakers. His words clicked and buzzed in the way of his insect-like people. We have maybe 2 weeks of breathable air left. Hana closed her large dark eyes. 2 weeks. She had stopped being surprised by bad news. Every day brought another system failure, another piece of equipment that gave up and died. The Stellar Harmony had been the pride of the Villani Republic. Now it was just a metal tomb drifting in the endless dark. How are the food stores? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Gone, Taiho replied. The synthesizers stopped working last week. We have some emergency rations left, maybe 5 days worth. Hana nodded to herself. 5 days of food, 2 weeks of air. The math was simple and horrible. They would starve before they suffocated. She supposed that was better. She had heard that starving was easier than drowning in bad air. She walked slowly through the empty corridors of their ship. Her bare feet made no sound on the deck plates. The Stellar Harmony had been built for a crew of 30. Now only 3 remained alive. In the engine bay, she found Taiho working over the hyperdrive controls. His 6 arms moved quickly over the crystal panels, but Hana could see the defeat in his movements. He had been trying to fix their faster-than-light drive for months. The beautiful crystals that powered their ship had gone dark and silent. Any luck? She asked. Taiho's compound eyes turned toward her. Even in the dim light, she could see how tired he looked. The quantum alignment is completely broken, he said. I would need a full repair facility to fix this. And about 6 months. We don't have 6 months. No, we don't. Hana left him to his hopeless work and went to find Captain Minho. She found him in his quarters, floating in the small tank of water that kept his gills working. His blue-green skin had faded to a sickly gray color. The proud warrior who had commanded their exploration mission now looked old and broken. Captain, she said softly. Minho's large eyes opened. Hana, how are our supplies? She told him about the air and food. He listened without speaking, then closed his eyes again. I failed them all, he whispered. 30 good people trusted me to bring them home. Now 27 are dead, and soon we will join them. You didn't fail anyone, Hana said. The hyperdrive failure wasn't your fault. No one could have predicted it. A captain is responsible for his crew. That's what command means. When your people die, you have failed. Hana wanted to argue with him, but she was too tired. They were all too tired. For 3 months they had fought to survive. They had rationed food and recycled air and tried every trick they knew to fix their broken ship. Nothing had worked. Now they were just waiting to die. She returned to the observation deck and sat down in her favorite chair. It faced the large window that showed the stars. When they had first entered this empty space between galaxies, she had been excited. The energy readings they had come to study were unlike anything known to science. She had imagined the discoveries they might make, the papers she would write. Now those energy readings seemed like a cruel joke. They had led the Stellar Harmony into a trap. The strange forces in this region of space had damaged their hyperdrive in ways that seemed impossible. The quantum crystals that should have lasted for centuries had simply stopped working. Hana activated her personal recorder. She had been making logs every day, though she didn't know why. No one would ever hear them. Still, it felt important to record their final days. Maybe someday another ship would find their wreck. Maybe someone would want to know what had happened to them. Personal log, day 94, she began. Food supplies are almost gone. Air recycling is failing. Taiho estimates 2 weeks before the atmosphere becomes too toxic to breathe. She paused, watching the distant galaxies spin slowly in the dark. I've been thinking about home. About the crystal gardens on Vela Prime, and how the morning sun makes them sing. I wonder if I'll dream about them when I die. She turned off the recorder and leaned back in her chair. Through the ship's hull, she could feel the vibration of failing systems. The Stellar Harmony was dying around them, one component at a time. In the old days, When her people still lived on their homeworld's surface, they had believed that the spirits of the dead traveled to the stars. Now Hana was already among the stars and she would die here. She wondered if that meant something or if it was just another cosmic joke. The emergency lights flickered again. Soon they would go out completely. Then there would be only the darkness and the cold and the slow failure of their bodies. It was not the end she had imagined when she joined the crew of an exploration ship. She closed her eyes and tried to remember the sound of wind through crystal trees. It was better than listening to the dying ship around her, better than counting the hours they had left. Outside the window, the galaxies continued their ancient dance. They had been spinning for billions of years before Hana was born, and they would spin for billions more after she was gone. The thought should have been frightening. Instead, she found it oddly comforting. At least they would die among the stars.